Hello fellow Yu-Gi-Oh players, and welcome back to another video of Mr. TCE. YCS Richmond is just around the corner. It's going to be this weekend, and we know that the meta right now is pretty diverse, but really how diverse is it? So the tiers as it goes is S tier. This is the best deck, and it's like represents most of 70% of the top cuts. There's no S tier decks in this format. We have tier 1, just the best decks. Tier 1.5, which just comes after. They can win the event, but they are not regarded as the best deck. Tier 2 is competitive. They can win an event, they can top, but they are quite a few steps behind the tier 1 and tier 1.5 decks. And then we have the rogue decks. These decks are decks that anyone can play. They can compete, they can top, but winning a tournament with this deck is going to be a real struggle. So you can play any of these decks, you can maybe get a top, but winning will take a really good pilot and lots of luck. So all the decks that are going to be presented in this tier list are playable decks. They're all decks that can be used to compete in a high level. If your deck is not in here, it doesn't mean it's not playable. It's just that in the competitive format, we have to know which decks can actually compete. And I consider these decks to be the ones that can actually make a fight for those top cuts in YCS. So without further ado, let's begin. First of all, we got Ultra Guys. Ultra Guys is just a normal trap deck, but for trap decks, we do have a better deck, which is going to be Labyrinth, and I'm going to put Labyrinth in tier 1.5. Labyrinth has been struggling quite a bit in the last few YCSs and the last format, but I think it's gonna get a boost because people are starting to sleep on it. Ultra Guy, we'll put it in Rogue. It's a good trap deck. You can do good in locals, but in a YCS level, it's better to just take what's best, right? And Labyrinth is the best trap deck. Black Wings I consider to be, just Rogue. They can be good in the right hands, like they have lots of good effects. Black Whirlwind is still a card, and they have the new Black Whirlwind. But to play a combo deck and to play a towers deck, there are other better options for these events, so I just consider it to be a rogue deck. Runic Chimera, branded Chimera, I'm gonna put it, I think it's gonna be on top of Labyrinth. It's a really versatile deck. It's only fusions, but it gives you so much. It doesn't instantly lose to Dimensional Barrier just because the Chimera cards are quick play cards, and you can just fuse on top of it. Plus you can set the cards and fuse in your opponent's turn, right? I think that Mirror Knight and the new Chimera fusion really helps this deck out to extend past whatever interruptions your opponent may have, and plus the going first end board for this deck is really strong since it can set up any a floodgate basically from the graveyard. I'm gonna put branded. This is pure branded Despia, just the gimmick Puppet Luck. It's still good. I'm gonna put it for this event. I'm gonna put it top of tier 2 just because if you're going to play a branded deck, I'd rather you play the branded Chimera since it's a bit more versatile. This loses more hard to Ash than the branded Chimera deck does, so that's why I put it just below here, but it's definitely on top of tier 2 for this event specifically. Pure Chimera is just going to be below branded just because it's a pure deck. It's not gonna do much. Dark World, yes, Dark World is for me tier 2. It's a great deck. Draw is in the format. That's what makes it not tier 1.5 probably, but I would put it as tier 2. It's really scary to play against. Like if you lose the dice, you're probably going to lose that match unless you have draw or shifter. DD Crows and Bestials are really good too, but this deck can go off, and really good pilots can take advantage of this deck in its maximum form. Dinos, I'm gonna put Dinos for me top of Rogue. They can still compete. Misk is still a card. Conductor is insane still. Like I think if you can get Conductor on in this format against a Rescue Ace board, you're probably gonna win. But you have to deal with the traps with the back row that have turbulence sets. beforehand. But actually, you can just Conductor effect. Because of that, only I'm going to put it tier 2, because against Rescue Ace you can Misk, right, and then summon Conductor, and then you can do Conductor effect to put all your opponent's monsters face down, and they cannot activate any of their back row anymore. That's really good, and then he can OTK, so I think I'm going to put it on tier 2. Just the bottom of tier 2 and top of rogue basically, but it's a good competitor. Dragon Link, I had high hopes for Dragon Link, especially Bestial Dragon Link, which is the competitive version of the deck, but it has been lacking. I think that the speed of the format, which is slowed down a bit, but at the same time there's so much advantage to be gained from these decks that don't have anything touched on the ban list, right? And Dragon Link just has the Chaos Space, the Bestials, it has the Chaos Dragon Synchro just banned. Like it has taken its hits. Good pilots can thrive with this deck, but it's still a struggle. Draco Slayers, I'm gonna put it top of rogue. Good pilots with Draco Slayers are gonna be good. This deck is insane going first. It can break boards just because the level 8 synchro is not a once per turn effect, so you can summon 2 or 3 of it and just keep looping Draco Slayer monsters from the main deck and shuffling deck cards also from your opponent without targeting, by the way. So I think that's really good. It is an underrated deck. I'm gonna put it just on top of rogue just because it's a Pendulum deck and the nib is round, so it does die hard to nib. Drytron, I'm gonna put it I think just above Dinos. Dinos is gonna be like on the bottom of the tier 2, but Drytron, it can set up the Cover Lord, which has been errata to not activate, so it automatically skips your opponent's main phase 1, puts them at the end of the battle, and also negates fusion, synchros, and XYZ monsters face up on the field. So that's really good. He's a walking skill drain. He can be really good against Chimera, against Branded, against any XYZ based decks, synchro based decks, Manadiums, like, and it can go ham. It does lose a draw. If draw was not in the format, I would put it a bit higher in the tier 2, but as of right now, this is where it belongs. Eldritch, I decided to put Eldritch here just because Branded Eldritch is deck for me. It can compete. Branded Fusion plus the Cursed Outland puts up like 2-3 interruptions by itself, and you still have 3 cards on your hand. It's been a while since it has showed up in events, but I think it can compete against the best decks. But like I said, to play any other trap deck, Labyrinth is just better. So while Labyrinth exists full power, all these trap decks are just going to be probably rogue. Eldritch is going to be like on the bottom. I think it's better than Black Wings, and probably better than Ultra Guys too with the Branded engine. Now Runic, I've included lots of Runic variants, so I'm gonna try and put them all at the same time. Runic Evil Twin, I'm gonna put it in probably, yeah, Runic Evil Twin Sprite. It's a great deck. It has gone down in popularity just because well, the Runic engine is not that great going in this format. It can struggle going second. The Runic cards are always going to be insane, but it has been struggling this format. You also have the Runic for Hire, which I think it's just, these can go either or, so I'm just going to put it, whenever one of these decks is good, the other one is also going to be good, just because of the Runic engine and the Sprite cards. Because remember, these both of these decks run the Sprite cards, and whenever one is 1.5, the other one is going to be 1.52. But at the moment, I feel comfortable putting it this way. Runic Plunder is just a rogue deck, but it is one of the better rogue decks. It was insane in the Kashtira format just because you can put a token in your opponent's field and lock them out. You can still do that by putting a token and doing goals and match, which is one of the main win conditions for this deck. But to play this Runic variant, just play one of these two. Or for me, the best Runic variant at the moment, we have the Runic Chimera, which is pretty explosive. It takes advantage of the Chimera engine and the Runic engine It has a bit of anti-synergy just because the Chimera cards will not trigger from the Runic discard outlet. But the end board that you can make with this specific deck and protecting your field with the Kaoro is really good. So I do consider it to be a really good deck. Now let's see, Sprite, Evil Twin. This deck is like an old deck, but it's not good anymore because you can just play the Runic engine and it's gonna be better. It does have lots of space for non-engine, which is great, but it does lack the power needed to thrive in this format, right? Exo Sister is actually doing pretty good this format. It has topped a YCS, it has topped some regionals, so I think I would put it in the mid of tier 2. It's being played as cash, what it used to be played, where you put the Magnifica and you try to protect it with Forbidden Lance and all that. Since Magnifica is a really good card, it can become a really great interruption. This deck is really consistent and it is a shifter deck, and that is what carries it above and beyond. Tearlaments used to just destroy this deck even when this deck was its counter, but the RNG aspect of Tearlaments now makes it a bit weaker to Exo Sister, plus Shifter being a card, like it just takes it above and beyond. As for Flunderies, I will put this 1.5, probably on the bottom of 1.5, just because it has an awkward matchup with Rescue Ace. But I think, again, it's a shifter deck that's more explosive. It's not more consistent than Exo Sister, but the end board is more impressive since Dreaming Town, the trap card, is really good, and you can set up multiple Apex even negates in your opponent's turn. Plus M-Pen just destroys Unchained. Like, they cannot do much about it because it is a link-based deck. So M-Pen just destroys link-based decks, and any deck, because your opponent is forced to put your monsters on defense position to activate their effect. So that means that they're not going to be as efficient during the battle phase. So that is great. It does lag on the consistency part, but I think it is still great. Since the banning of statue, this deck has performed. So Gold Pride Punk, I'm gonna put it on the bottom of tier 2, just on top of Dinos, just because it is a consistent deck, but it loses so hard to many of the hand traps that are played this format, like Ash, Nib, Droll, Imperm. Those are like the 4 most played hand traps. Plus Harpy Feather Dusters also can make a case for this deck. So I do think it's good. It's consistent enough to be played, but it loses hard enough to cards that are pretty popular in the format to not be above tier 2 and to be on the bottom of this tier 2 tier. So Heroes is a tough one because Heroes is really consistent. It can OTK you, it has really good end boards, but it has the same problem as the Gold Pride, so I'm gonna put it here. It is a great deck. It will always be a great deck. It has many tools in its disposal, and I think a good pilot can take this deck far and beyond, but right now I would put it just bottom of tier 2. This is Pure Horus, which I think is just bottom of Rogue. There was like Horus Visuals, which can be put like top of Rogue, but Pure Horus, actually let me put it just over here. I don't think the pure version is gonna do much. It's play more as an engine. Infernoble is now being played with the Double Star cards, and it can make in pretty insane boards. I can confidently say it's on top of the tier 2. Remember, the line between tier 2 and tier 1.5 is really thin, especially on these decks that are here on the top of it. But I do think it can struggle again to much of the hand traps playing the format, but it has many tools. It has gained many tools during the last few sets, so I think that it can compete. Isolde is still a card that can get you to a full combo, and the end board is pretty strong, like the Link one, and all the equips it can get. Earth Machine goes in Rogue. I do think it's it's good because it's consistent, but it does a whole bunch of nothing. So that's the problem I always had with this deck, is that it can be consistent. It can go like a pretty long turns and long combos, but it's really easy to stop. It dies to nib, and it doesn't really do much. Vanadium I'm gonna put tier 1.5 definitely. It has shown its potential. It has shown that it can top a YCS consistently. I think it has 2 already from the last 2, and the new set just make this deck better. So it would be a little bit dumb to put it below tier 1.5 with all the tools it has. I think it will be a good contender for this YCS. It can struggle against roll, but the end board is just so good. It can go second really good too. It has like 1-card combos, 2-card combos, and it is the prime example of it's the best combo deck we have right now in the format. So definitely tier 1.5. Marine says just bottom of tier 2. I like the Marine says cards. I like the Marine says deck. I would not put a rogue just because I do consider it to be much better than these decks below. But it is not the best Cyrus deck. I do think it's best than the Mathmech, and Mathmech I would still put it tier 2. It has consistency issues just because of circular being at 1, but they have so many other ways to reach that circular and that combo. It's a Cyrus deck, which I think are in a really good spot right now, other than Nibiru, which can just kill these decks, except for Marine says if they play it correctly, they can set up the Toad negate before you can even nib. So that's pretty good. Sprite Melfi, they would put it just on top of the other Sprite variants. I think it is better because it's more consistent and it sets up a really good negate. And Herald of the Arclight, just on the field by itself, can be really good against tier, because everything they mill will just go banished, and everything from their hand will just go banished. So setting up that kind of macrocosmos effect against Tearlaments can be really good. I do think it's the best Sprite variant right now, just because of its consistency. There are many people like Think and Fan playing going second Sprite, but I don't think that's really viable in a competitive scene. Mikanko, Devil Star. I'm gonna put it. It just won a YCS, by the way. But it's a hard deck to assess just because it's 1 of 32 and it won, right? And in YCS Indy, I think one topped also, but again, it's 1 of 32. So I would not put it on top of any of these decks. I will put it on top of. I think this is a fair assessment of the deck as of now. Again, it can change. The meta is really diverse. Anything can win, but it has proved itself to have the tools and to be pretty consistent in beating the meta. So I think it can compete. It can OTK out of nowhere, so that's what makes it going second really good. Also, it sets up a field where the Runic cards cannot beat it. So I think that is pretty insane. I think we'll see more of Mikanko while players keep experimenting with it. So we'll just see. Runic, this is PK Horus. I'm gonna put it. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put it like over here. I don't think it's a better deck than Drytron or Dark Worlds. I just think it's consistent. It has really, it doesn't have much space for non-engine, so it gets really tight to going second with this deck. The going first board is really good. Fogblade is still a card. Plus you can now do like XYZ spams with the rank 8s. It's a good deck. I just don't think it's gonna be winning any YCS soon. So actually I just think I'll put it below tier 2, just above. I think that's a fair assessment. Plunder, I'm gonna put it below Plunder. Runic, it's a good deck, but to play pure Plunders, actually a Bencher Plunder I would put it on top of Runic Plunder. So if this is Plunder Adventure, it's actually tier 2. I'm gonna say it. If it's Plunder Adventure, it's actually tier 2. It has many tools. The synergy is there. It's insane. With the new Ken and Gen cards, they can set up like the negate on first turn before the 5 summons. They can do some nasty stuff. So I do think it is fair to put it in tier 2. It's hard to know where to put it, but I think it is a better deck than Exo Sister and then out of these, so I will put it there. Purely, I'm going to put it on top of 1.5. It's just a consistent deck. It has many counters to it, specifically XYZ Anchor, Book of Moon, Book of Eclipse, Herald of the Abyss, Kaijus, but it's so good at doing what it does, setting them up consistently, Purely Nor, drawing those cards during the standby phase, and going second, it can break your board. Plus, they have the field spell, which just counters completely Rescue Ace. They cannot activate one card from their back row when the field spell is up and there's a special summon monster. So you just activate the field spell, do happiness, and start attacking away. You will probably get the 4 attacks. You'll wipe their board. If they have an attack position monster, you can just kill them. Insert the cards and set up an Purely Nor for next turn. I think it has a really good matchup against, for me, the only tier 1 deck in this format. And it's Rescue Ace, the Veilstar. Like, if you're gonna prepare for this tournament for Richmond, be prepared for this deck. It is, for me, undisputably the best deck of the format. Like, these other decks, they're great, but just the tools that this deck has, the recovery, the consistency, the versatility, it's insane, right? And we saw it during the last YCS. It was 2 Rescue Ace in the finals. I think we're gonna see more of this deck. The margin between this 1.5 and this one tier 1 is really slim, specifically for these top decks, but it's just the best deck. There's not much to say. Rikka, people sleep on Rikka. People still hate Rikka, and for me, it's a draw format. It can be tough, but for me, it's comfortably atop of tier 2, probably 1 or 2. It is great. People do not understand this deck. They do not want to play it because they do not know how good it is going first and going second also. Like, this deck can break boards pretty easily with just the engine. And if you add the non-engine to that, it can help greatly. It keeps getting tops for a reason, so I don't know why people keep sleeping on this deck. I topped the NAWCQ with Rikka and Avalon. And since then, like, it has shown up in every major event from Konami. So don't sleep on Rikka. Cash, this is like pure Kashtira. I'm gonna put it just below. Yeah, on the bottom of tier 2, because it's a good going second deck. Going first, I've seen it mixed with Horus, so just Kashtira Horus, but I don't think it can compete. Actually, I'm just gonna put in Rogue because I don't think it can compete enough. I don't think Fenrir can carry this deck enough to a top 32 on a YCS. Maybe it can, but here's maybe 1 out of 32, and it definitely won't win. Salads has the best, like, Salad right now is the best Cybers deck just because of its sheer consistency. But Cybers decks, I think they belong here in the bottom of tier 2, all of them, just because Nib is rampant right now. So they all lose to that specific card. It can put out some good boards. It is really consistent, and that's what can take Salad to like top a YCS and actually win. But other than topping and being consistent, its end board is always Nib token. So be wary of that. Scareclaw is just, I think, like mid rogue. It's definitely better than this deck. It can go first. Try Hard is a really good card, and it can OTK you really easily with 1.5, 2 cards basically. So super heavy. I'm gonna put it on the bottom of tier 2 just because it doesn't have its best card, which was the Link 1. It has tools. It is a good combo deck. It is mixed with Sprite. It is mixed with Vanquish Soul. It is mixed with Sword Soul. It is mixed with Sword Soul. But I think it's no better than just a bottom of tier 2 deck. Sky Striker, my baby. Unfortunately, I would put it just here probably. Engage is a great card, but it won't carry this deck to any success soon, just because there's no Mystic Mine. Going first, this deck has no end board. If you run many hand traps, you're just gonna break under hand traps. If you go second, it can do well, but again, it's not worth just running the risk of not doing that well with this deck. Sword Soul, I think it's pretty good. I would put it like in mid tier 2. It always does the same board. It's kind of a cookie cutter deck, but it's really good at what it does. Moye gives you draw. Sai gives you the Foolish Boreal. Going second, it can break boards pretty easily, but there's some boards that you cannot break, and that's the problem with Sword Soul. Plus, going first, the end board is almost the same as Unchained, and Unchained board is better. Just having that blackout is not good against an Unchained board, so have that in mind. I do think it's a good deck with a good pilot. This is Synchron, like Adventure Synchron. Just put it here. Probably better than Heroes. It hasn't shown up very much in the top cuts or any events for that matter, but I think it's good enough. It does lose hard to draw, which is rampant right now, but it's a good deck. The end board is oppressive. It does lose to the end board is oppressive. It does lose to Dark Lure, but I don't think it takes away from what the deck can actually do. Now, Tearlaments Horus, I would put this, just because it's tier, it's probably gonna be like here, just because it's here. But the Horus engine just doesn't add that much to the Tearlaments cards. It's just better to play Tearlaments Ichizu, which is for me the next best deck after the Rescue Ace that Bellstar. It does struggle with being an RNG deck. You need to be lucky sometimes. The deck right now is built to mitigate that luck aspect of the mills, which is pretty good, but it loses to Shifter, it loses to Draw, it loses to itself. It has some hands where it will just go ham and do whatever it wants, but it also has these hands where you cannot do much and lose to just one hand trap. So be wary of that. I do think it will win a YCS eventually, and I think this YCS is actually a really good chance. It has a really good chance for it to win, but it does have its issues, but that doesn't take away from the deck being an absolute beast of a deck. Trap Tricks, just because of Trap Tricks, I'm going to put it top of Rogue. It hasn't shown up like at all at the last few events. I think it's too slow of a deck to be competitive, and again, Trap deck, it's just best you just play Labyrinth, which has many tools and it's just better. Tri-Brigade Chimera, this is a new contender because of the new fusion that came out. It bridges the Chimera engine with the Tri-Brigade engine, and I think it's pretty good. I think it can compete. People are not playing it much because people do not play Tri-Brigade cards, but I think it is a good contender. Now Tri-Brigade Lyrilusk, this is like Rogue, probably mid-Rogue. I do like it, but it's just better to play it like, again, the new Chimera Tri-Brigade deck, which is just better. And Tri-Brigade Sprite is probably here on the tier list. It's gonna be great. It has good going first boards, but going second it can struggle a bit. The extenders are kind of weird because you need like the Tri-Brigade cards to extend with Tri-Brigade, but there comes a point where you cannot extend with the Sprite cards, so they can intertwine, they can conflict between one another, but it's good enough. Unchained, I think. Unchained, yeah, it's definitely 1.5, but I think it has been having some issues just because people are learning how to play it. Caesar has not been enough lately. I think it's 1.5, but I do not think it deserves to be on top of 1.5 just because of the performances it has been having in the last few events. So I'll just put it over here. I put Chimera branded above it just because I know the potential this deck has to pop out. Again, this is just preference and my personal opinion for YCS Richmond, but any of these decks can win. Any of these decks, probably more than one of these decks will be in multiples in top 32. Like it's gonna be like 8 Rescue Ace, 3 Cash, 3 Purely, 2 Branded Chimera, 2 Unchained, 1 Labyrinth, etc., etc. Like these decks are high chance to top and to actually win the event. So be on the lookout. Vanquish Soul, I'm gonna put it just mid tier 2. Yeah, probably below Runics because of the matchup they have, but they're still good enough. They're a floodgate slash shifter deck, which can be good against Tearlaments. Plus, they have the ability to run their Can Only Be One, which is, for me is the best floodgate trap in this format. Like Rescue Ace, it's good against them. Purely just destroyed. Unchained, destroyed. Labyrinth, destroyed. Flounder, destroyed. Rikka, good luck with that. Dragons, like again, warriors, and there's lots of decks. Like this is their warriors too. I think the Sword Soul. So there are lots of decks that it can attack. But again, it's a floodgate, and this deck relying on one floodgate to win just is it's not reliable, right? So yeah, this is my tier list for the YCS Richmond format. I do expect one of these decks in tier 1 or tier 1.5 to win, but the format is really open, it's diverse, and in the matter of any deck can't win, but many decks can compete. Remember, you need skill, but you also need luck to win an event, right? And you also need to have the right matchups, which involves luck also. So if any of these tier 2 decks manage to get the right matchups, manage to get the right luck, and they're piloted by the proper person, I think they can win. So yeah, thank you for watching. I expect to be doing more videos soon. As always, please like and subscribe for my videos, and we'll see how the meta actually goes after YCS Richmond.